Good afternoon, everyone. Here's the second part of the old Her Majesty walk around. That's the A motor that's getting rebuilt right now. But yesterday I talked about how overbuilt the Jaguar front crossmember is. Well, that's what comes out of the front of a Jag. Now that goes into, a 4,000-pound car. Plus, it's also meant to hold the motor, which again, that motor is about 700 pounds. So that's why it needs to be overbuilt. Now, because I've moved the motor back, I don't have to worry about so much weight. So let's go ahead and look at the front of the car again. So the front of the car is now assembled. Got the springs back in and the sway bar hooked up and the brakes on and all that other stuff. And as you can see, I've got these nice custom Chevette brake calipers here. These are from a 2015 Chevette. I think they call it the C7. And I got those off LKQ before they started asking for core charges. And they were pretty inexpensive compared to buying Willwoods or anything else. So again, this is all stock Jaguar sway bar, springs, upper and lower control arms. What's not Jag here are those shocks. Now some of you might look at those shocks and you might be like, hey, I got a set of those on my truck, and you'd probably be pretty close. Those are the cheapest adjustable shocks that I've been able to find, reasonably speaking, from Summit, and they're like a little over $100, and they're Ranchos, and they come out of a Hummer H3. That's what they're meant for, and they're meant for one that has a 4-inch lift in it. So what that, for me, that means that it has the right ends, and they're easy to put in the car. Okay, so the upgrades on the front of the car are those shocks, and of course the brakes. Now you might wonder, why am I putting such huge brakes on a little car, and isn't this overkill? Well, the fact of the matter is from all those years racing Baja, I learned one thing, and that's overkill gets you home. So my advice to anyone building a Lemons car is basically take whatever car you want to race and put a truck underneath it. Now, for those of you who are like, oh no, why would I do something like that? Well, that's what the Previa is. The Previa is basically a Toyota Tundra with a van on top of it. And that thing has 1,300 race miles on it without any problems at all. I mean, I probably got to go through the motor, but it's going to get something new. Now, here's the rear of the car. Again, Chevette brakes. Now, this rear end is out of a Lincoln Mark 8. The reason I picked it is because it's aluminum lower control arms and aluminum pumpkin. And as compared to trying to put a Jag rear end in a car, even though a Jag rear end would be more bulletproof than this, a Jag rear end out of a 93 is basically based off a Dana 44. The reason I picked this is it's just too easy to put in. Basically, I welded 2 little brackets onto it, ran some bolts up into the body, and the whole thing fits right in. So the Jag needs all these other supports, and you can't even take the rear cover off without dropping the suspension. So it's kind of a pain. Again, adjustable shocks in the back. Ranchos. I can't remember what they're out of. I just basically picked the free length and then picked and made sure it had the correct eyes that I wanted on it. But again, that's something I can get from Summit Racing. And reasonably speaking, I've blown shocks from Rancho before, and they've actually warranted them. So, I don't feel bad about giving them my money. Again, some Chevette brakes. And that's pretty much all the suspension. So stock Mark 8 sway bar, stock XJ6 sway bar in the front. Just some steel braided lines. And then as far as asking, you know, what do I use a Chevette master cylinder? No, I'll get to that when we get inside. It's all Mustang, and the reason that is because they have the smallest booster. Okay, so that's the tour of the suspension. I'll raise the car up a little bit and we'll get a look underneath it. But as far as getting stuff ready for the race, oh, there's Peanut. All this came about because the car didn't have any camber in it. So basically I shortened the rear arms to get camber in the back of the car, and then I moved the spring bucket back to give me a little more caster. I built the camber in it the first time that I built the car. So again, some minor modifications, nothing too crazy. Okay, so I'll get the car up in the air. There's some ducting that I want to run from the there's like fog light mounts and the headlight mounts in the front of the car, and I need to run that to, again, the brakes, and I want to do a cool air into the cabin. So got some more fabrication work to do, but that's it from the front of Her Majesty. I'll get up in there and you can see the inside of it.